Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
We're going to call to order the meeting of the Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District. And I'm going to do what we did a couple meetings ago because I kind of like it, which is to ask people to introduce themselves and the role they play in all of this, for the record, if for nothing else. And I'm going to start with Don Capicelli, who is our Don, you want to say hi and tell people where you're from and what you're doing here?
Hi, folks. Don Capicelli from Athens. I'm one of the members of the Athens School Advisory Commission, and we're looking to see where we can support Westminster on their withdrawal proposal. We're looking for comparative budgets and other constitutional things to see what the impact would be if we remained, anyway, you get the idea.
Yep. Helen, you're next on my sheet.
Helen Richards Peel. I am the principal at Grafton Elementary School.
Lynn, you're Carrie?
Hi, I'm Lynn Carey, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
All right. Liz Hardy?
Hi, Liz Hardy, principal of Westminster Center School.
Flora Pagan? You have to tell me if I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Flora. I've never asked.
It doesn't matter. Everybody says.
Well, it matters to me.
Flora Pagan, business manager of Supervisory Union.
Andy Haas, you want to say a moment?
Yeah, Andy Haas, Director of Student Services for WNESU.
Mr. Pratt?
Chris Pratt, Superintendent of Schools.
Cheryl Charles.
Cheryl Charles, resident of Westminster, serving on the school board and on the WNESU board.
Lynn Morgan.
Lynn Morgan from Athens on this board and the SU board as well.
All right. See Nicole Barnett. She is our recording person, but you can say hi, Nicole, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Nicole would like to be silent, stealthy.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
So you're here because you are?
I'm doing the midden.
Indeed. We have Jessa. You want to say hi?
Hi, Jessa Westlark. I'm from the Grafton and SU board.
David Clark.
I'm David Clark. I represent Westminster on the Union High School Board, and I chair the SU board.
I've got a person identified as iPhone Margaret. You want to say hi? Well, how about Desiree Wilbur? You want to say hello?
Hi, I'm Desiree Wilbur. I'm the school nurse at Grafton Elementary.
You are indeed. Shirley, want to say hello and tell us who you are? How about Cindy? Cindy's iPhone. Who's Cindy? Well, Hardy Merrill, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself? Well, I know Hardy is the chair of the Grafton Advisory Commission, Educational Advisory Commission. So there you go. Hardy, say hi.
Hi.
Well, there we go. So with that having been done, I want to move on to public comments. Actually, adjustments to the agenda need to be done, and I have two, and other people may have some. I want to add onto the agenda under before budget discussions. Want to add approve authorization of cooperation with select board committees as an item. Chris has said that he would like that on, make his job easier working with the town select board committees, commissions. And the other one is to approve bank credit card applications. Apparently, we need a formal resolution from the from our friends at People's Bank. And those are the only ones I've got. Does anyone else have any ads? Chris, have I missed anything?
No, I don't have anything else to add to that, Jack. Thank you.
All right. Well, why don't we move on and then ask for public comment if there is any. Communications and public comment. Then why don't we move on to the business at hand? Let me just pull up my copy of the agenda because I want to do that. Hold on just a second. If I'll ask your indulgence. Had it right here. Chris, you want to pull it up because I had it 5 minutes ago and I don't see it now on the website. I believe that the item is school reports. Yes, approve it. Thank you. Approve and review board minutes for November 12th and November 20th. I will look for a motion to approve them. Anybody want to do that?
I move that we approve them.
All right, that's Lynn that has the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will move that we run the roll call here. Why don't we start with Jessa?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes, approved. Mm-hmm.
Lynn?
Yes.
All right, do we have anybody new yet? I don't see any, and I'll agree with that. So they are moved. Moving on to reports. Principal report, 5A1, Westminster Community School.
Sure. I'll start us off. Helen and I worked together to put these together, but I'll start. I just wanted, I can speak. Okay, good. I just didn't want to cut anybody off. I just wanted to mention our teachers did an excellent job remotely the week after Thanksgiving, implementing many of the strategies that they had learned in the recent distant learning professional development that were offered to all elementary teachers. Attendance was really outstanding, with all students attending both live sessions and doing their independent work. Specialized instruction with special educators, speech, interventionists, all also held classes with great participation. Helen and I sent out surveys to our families. We had over 50% participation from our families, with the overall results being really positive about their child's experience, with very helpful feedback for continued improvement. Parents liked the increase of live sessions and their availability to work individually with students with small group or one-on-one session with teachers or during teacher office hours. Classroom teachers ran classes in the morning in all content areas, and the specials or the essentialists in Westminster held classes in the afternoon. Yesterday, we had a district-wide elementary PLC, And teachers were working with their same grade level or specialist colleagues to reflect and set goals for the improved effectiveness of remote learning to plan for our January week. Helen, did you want to continue? Yeah. I think you're muted.
I am, but yes, continue. Go ahead. So,
Helen, I think you're
Helen, I
muted.
think you are muted. You look very articulate, but we couldn't hear you.
I always forget that. You'd think I'd do that by now. All right, so at Grafton, our teachers are developing the skills to include students who are quarantining when learning is occurring in the building. And essentially that means that they click on their normal Google Classroom and they get included in all the activities that are going on in the classroom with morning meetings and mini lessons and small groups. And we are problem solving that as we go. Their assignments get posted on Google Classroom. And so it's a system that they've gotten used to with the Google Classroom. So it's made it easier for them to just log on and participate without adding an extra burden to our already hardworking faculty. So moving on to our numbers and enrollment. At this point, Grafton has 2 confirmed cases of COVID. We've had 8 students and or staff quarantining since our last board meeting. Our enrollment currently is at 50 students, and we welcomed a new 2nd grader this week. We have 42 students in the building, and we have 8 VTVLC students, and we have 8 homeschoolers, and 2 of these are new this year because of COVID.
Westminster has 3 confirmed cases of COVID, with 1 currently quarantining. Our enrollment, we have 138 students that are in the building for in-person instruction, 15 VTVLC students. Westminster has a total of 20 homeschooled students, 3 of which are new this year due to COVID. I'm going to move on to professional development. So we have offered professional development for guided reading through Lesley University to support the implementation of our new reading program, Fountains of an All Classroom. So all classroom teachers participated in that. Our specials teachers, or the essentialists in Westminster, participated in 2 full days of professional development before Thanksgiving on digging deeper into distant learning and developing an action plan to improve their instruction remotely. And coming up, we will have a professional development next week for classroom teachers on using the Fountains of an All Classroom materials remotely, specifically around guided reading.
And the next piece I want to talk about is our gift giving school-wide. Traditionally, Grafton has had a holiday bazaar, which of course we can't do this year. So in the spirit of the season, the teachers have put together with the wonderful support of the PTG, the parent teacher group, and they've created simple crafts for the students to make and be able to give to families. A bucket load of gift bags were dropped off the other day with a lot of tissue paper. And so the kids will make these crafts and wrap them up, and then they'll go home to be used as gifts to give to whichever family member they want to give it to. So it's a nice alternative to the traditional holiday bazaar. And I think the last piece of our report that we wanted to speak to was just to give you sort of a view of the emotional well-being of the staff. You know, most of our teachers are working extremely hard and doing their very best to support our students and their learning. It is impressive to see the teachers implementing new strategies to be more effective with student engagement. And our job as their principals is to support them in this growth, you know, support them to take risks, that it's okay to make mistakes and to continually learn from that. And this is always a balance during normal times, but doing this in a pandemic is even more challenging. Many of our staff are stressed and challenged by the current state of affairs with this pandemic. They watch the cases rising for friends and family members and neighbors testing positive, and families not following the guidance we have implemented to keep us all safe. And they do, they get scared and the stress level rises. Our job is always to keep them on that left side of the bell curve, which is where they can do their best learning. Recently, many of them have slid over to that right side of the bell curve because of this virus. While they might understand the rationale based on the data and the advice from the good doctors and the nurses that we work with and the health department of why we are doing school and why we are continuing to do in-school teaching, you know, they're scared, quite frankly, and worried by what they see going on around them in all the communities and seeing the cases rise. We're doing our very best to support them, and we'll continue to do the good work that needs to be done to help them feel safe and supported at school. But we did feel like it was important for you to realize and understand that it's a scary and worrisome piece for our faculty. And we will continue to do the good work and help them feel safe and help them feel supported, because we know when they do feel safe and supported, they will do their best teaching, which results in students doing their best learning. And I think that's all Liz and I had for tonight. Are there any questions for either one of us?
Why don't we go around the horn as we've been trying to do in our past meetings, and I'll ask each person. Jessup, do you have anything?
No, I don't have any questions. I really like the format that the two principals are giving the reports in. I think it works really well.
Jessa?
Thank you. Cheryl?
Well, thank you. Thank you for the full report. I echo Jess's comments about this collaborative format works really well. I have a question about the numbers, just to be sure I understand. The 8 homeschoolers in Athens Grafton and the 20 in Westminster are not counted in the numbers that you gave us. 50 for Athens Grafton includes those 42 in the building and 8 with the Vermont Learning Academy concept, and then 138 plus 15. I just want to double check those homeschoolers are not in the count. And I know from the SU perspective, they're not in our numbers for the supervisory union as well.
You are correct. They're not included in the total enrollment.
Okay.
They are in addition to.
And it's really helpful to know they're out there. And there's something that, you know, that may change as things return to more in-person learning when safe enough to do so and all of that. So thank you. Thanks for that clarification. And then with respect to the candid and clear report on the stress that the teachers and I'm sure all staff actually are feeling. Thank you for that. Continue to keep us apprised of that as I know you will. And let us know, I would say this is for Chris and Lynn from a supervisory union point of view. I'm sure that our teachers in Athens, Grafton, and Westminster are not alone in this, and there may be ways that throughout the supervisory union we can be alert and provide additional support for everyone. But it's a worrisome time. And I guess one clarifying question, I know this was a joint report from Liz and Helen that Helen gave on behalf of both of you. You said maybe that there's a question about why are we not fully remote when the cases are increasing? Is that what you said? I wanted to be sure I understood that.
Do you want me to take a stab, Liz, or do you want to start?
I think, well, was this something you were speaking to, Helen, regarding your staff questioning why we're not fully remote?
The overall focus or point of view is I just wanted the board to understand that this is a hard time for staff. You know, they see what's going on and they're worried. You know, I know that there are staff members who've reached out to particular board members with emails because they don't understand why we're not fully remote because of the rising cases. And so it's on their minds and they're worried and they're stressed about it.
Yeah, I think that it's just getting closer and closer to home.
Yeah.
Where before we felt we were in a bubble and now we don't feel like we're in that bubble.
I mean, Grafton had 0 cases for most of the time that this has been going on. And then all of a sudden, you know, within the last week, the numbers have jumped. And I just think it makes them, worried, nervous, scared.
Yeah, and I could say from the SU standpoint, I think that's the case for majority of the teachers right now throughout the SU. I've seen an increase in emails and concerns in regards to as the numbers continue to grow. And it's my understanding that we'll continue to see them grow, seeing we're at the 2-week mark tonight of all the reaction from Thanksgiving. So that is sentiments that it's not just at Athens, Grafton, and Westminster. Seeing an increase in that across the board at majority of the schools, that teachers and parents are concerned and sharing more now than they have in the past in regards to in-person instruction versus remote.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I'm going to move to Lynn Morgan.
One question I have, at what point do we look into going fully remote? Do we have a plan on that?
I mean, I think that's something we can't predict. And when we get to the point, then that's a discussion that the administration has with each individual board again in regards to the tipping point. I mean, there are different charts that we look at in regards to when we have so many cases in an SU. It can be found on the CDC site that guides schools in regards to at what point do you start going fully remote. But it's not just unique to the SU, it's unique to individual districts, as we've seen with a few times that we did have to go remote. So that's something that the board, we all know, makes the final decision. But as things continue to, hopefully they won't continue to grow, but at some point I would assume that, maybe that's a discussion that each board has with their administration and the superintendent.
Okay.
My turn. Couple things. One, I'm one of the people who did receive a note from a teacher at in the Grafton system, and without breaking confidences, maybe it was a public note, but without breaking confidences, what she had asked about the issue and wanted to make sure that we both had a plan and that there were empowered individuals in the system that could flip the switch and say we're going to remote. We do know that, like all other districts, when the disease breaks into the actual school building, that's a different thing than when members of our community get ill. Right now, we're still at the stage where it's at our shore, but it didn't cross into our workspace, into our school space. We have a variety of empowered individuals. We have the nurses in consultation with Dr. Keith Loud, which we pulled into this process specifically to do that. Chris can certainly do it on his own in consultation with his building team. Dr. Mark Levine can do it from his spot in Montpelier, and the board could do it sort of on their own if they just felt like this was no longer tenable. I would refer people to Keith Loud's guidance on this, which was that the negative impact on kids that are remote is pretty impressive and not very positive, and that is the balance that and the reason why he and the people that are advising the incoming Biden administration are pushing so hard to try to have us keep schools open until such time as it's not tenable. But we have Chris, Helen, and Liz in one team, the nurses and the nurses and Keith Loud in team 2, and the state folks in team 3, any one of which, not in addition to ourselves, they could pull the plug if we felt the need. I'm hoping that we can continue on. We're going to have another break coming in after Christmas, because that's the post-Thanksgiving firewall worked. I'm hoping that if we have a have problems, that the Christmas firewall will do the same thing. And if board members feel individually or collectively feel like we need to do something on our own, I invite you to call me and we'll call a special meeting at literally at any point. I suspect that between the 4 folks with the power to pull the plug, that we'll be extremely responsive if this crashes into our buildings. Liz and Helen have been very forthright, letting me know literally within hours of a positive among our community members. And I'm hoping and I assume that will continue to be the case. And we pulled the plug once already, and we do it again if we have to. It's kind of my view. I hope that's helpful. I just want to put it on the record. That is our process. Cheryl, I see you got a hand up.
Thank you, and that's all very helpful, Jack. I just wanted to make one clarifying comment. You made the statement that about the evidence around the kids who are remote, that the evidence is that experience is negative, to paraphrase you. And that's a comment in general around the United States, and not necessarily specific here. And it is not a reference to, for example, the curriculum being offered through the Vermont Virtual Learning Academy. You were talking about the kind of hybrid model and the going to remote when we're in a public school setting with a lot of in-person time, I believe. I don't think you were making a general statement about what's being offered through the Vermont Virtual Learning Academy. We don't have data about that, and I think there is probably a better experience coming from that than there is the other approach. Anyway, I just have a caution around that generalization.
You know, I got to tell you, in Dr. Loud's guidance, which is online, by the way, I'll have to get it on the website. His view was isolation is isolation, and that is a concern. And the folks at DH have been among the national folks collecting the data about the impact it's having on students. Certainly not the only place, but among them. And it seems to be a finding nationally that the kids are very, very sensitive, particularly elementary school kids are very sensitive to being kind of captive at home, if for lack of a better word. That is a great question that I would hope that our nursing folks, the next time they meet with Keith or the other gentleman whose name is escaping me, that's a good question. They could ask about that. I think that's a reasonable thing to see if they think that that situation is as isolating as the remote learning when kids are feeling outside but not in. Chris, go ahead.
And I also want to remind everybody that also is that in Wyndham Northeast, K through 6 right now, we have students that are in-house, in-person learning K through 6. So we have, K through 6, they have one day of that remote learning that's on Wednesdays. And we're lucky enough to be in that position because, as we all know, there are a lot of SUs and districts out there that's not the case. So right now, hopefully we can continue this course for as long as we can. And hopefully if things continue to improve, we can add Wednesdays as an in-person day. But we are fortunate right now to have K through 6 learning 4 days a week and continue to grow on that. I just wanted to remind people of that.
Yeah, at some point, and today's not the day to do it, we may want to talk about that 4th day and what the expected timeline is to get it to be a 5-day-a-week program. Because I have had a lot of parents that tell me that one day blows a hole in their ability to go back to work, and is something that I want to be sensitive to, even as this stuff is at our doorstep. I recognize that it's a stress to everybody, but that is an item that I hope that we may discuss in our January meeting if you haven't made that decision already to go to 5-day a week.
Well, we continue to have weekly discussions as an administrative team on that Wednesday, and I think a lot of times, especially now with the increase in COVID cases, positive cases, you know, it's more important now than ever to make sure we have those days to really make sure those buildings are being sanitized in a way, because now we have kids there 4 days a week, unlike 2 before. And I think we'll take a closer look at it after the holidays and see what the pattern is in regards to cases. And I think as soon as we start seeing a downward spiral in the cases that we have, then one of the first things we're going to do is look at those Wednesdays.
Sounds fair enough. All right. Anybody else from my board have a question? Does anybody in our community? Because we have about 20 odd people on this.
I just have a brief comment, Jack.
Yeah, go ahead,
Nobody else
Jessa.
is here. I do understand that in-person learning is very important. And I think the latest guidance was that we didn't need the deep clean Wednesdays, although I'm sure that's soon to be updated, possibly from the state. And we have kids we have differentiated learners, some that really need to learn in a group environment. But by saying that remote or even homeschooling for a single child is inferior to in-person public school, I think we want to be careful with that statement, because it kind of does a disservice to the millions of kids that are in that environment by choice pre-pandemic. Some kids it works great for, and that's what I think we need to, going forward, if this is going to last another semester, figure out who really needs to be there because their learning requires a group, and who's getting along okay at home.
Jessica, you actually sent a very articulate note about the issue about differentiated learning and how this impacts this stuff. I don't know if that got sent to Chris, but I thought it would be worth sending to him if you didn't do that already. I thought it was very well.
I just wanted to acknowledge that yes, in-person school is the ideal situation, and other countries have made sacrifices in other areas of their regular lives to keep schools open, such as closing restaurants and bars, that we might not have here as a society. But also we do have kids that have been doing good, and we don't want to sort of paint with one brush that learning at home is not as good. We should sort of celebrate the differences and figure out how to make it better for everybody.
Fair enough.
I think what Jessica said was well stated, because one thing I can say is that, you know, all the principals and administrators and directors across the board, we keep a close eye on all those different areas of learners, whether they, you know, which ones excel at working, you know, from home and remote learning, and which ones don't. And if you were on the last high school board meeting, you'll see that, you know, all the principals kind of visit those different areas of student learning, and we are able to, even at the middle school level, it was a Rockingham meeting, I stand corrected, is that kids that are struggling with remote learning, you know, we've identified them and started to bring them back. You know, so I can say that with directors and administrators are keeping a very close eye on those population of kids and what their learning styles are and what works best for them. So when those decisions need to be made, we're well aware of who they are from all the past work that the administration has done.
All right. Anything else, anybody? With permission of the board, then I am going to go on to 5B, finance budgets. And this is where where Flora gets a chance to show off her magic. And Flora, between you and Chris, I'm wondering if you might be able to put up on the screen the budgets that we have. And while you are doing that, I'm hoping I want to share with board members what I'm hoping we get out of this evening's first discussion. We've asked Hardy and Dawn and David to be part of this, but the items that I know are important to all of them are going to be sort of bottom line stuff. And because we don't have things like the SU budget, you know, hasn't been approved. This is going to be pretty crude stuff to some extent, but I wanted to at least let people know. I asked Flora to touch on the following, which is staff headcount changes, if any, provisions for salary adjustments, because that's always a thing, any facility repair items, paint job for the Grafton Elementary School, if that's a thing, some of the work that may need to be done ventilation-wise, any changes that we're anticipating in terms of charges from the SU, and most importantly, what we understand in terms of potential reimbursements from the state, because they're signaling as hard as they possibly can that we might not have the reimbursement levels that we've come to expect. So I don't know if anything is official come down the line, but those 5 items are the ones that I would like for to touch on, because a lot of the budget is things like, the insurance and benefits and little small line items. They're not necessarily things that we can that are necessarily useful to us. Go ahead, Chris, you got your hand up.
Yeah, and with those items, I would just say, because the board committee for negotiations is still in the mix of trying to figure that out. I think anything that we talk about in regards to salaries moving forward should go into executive. So,
yep. Hold on just a second. I got to kill something here.
yeah, so that way we're not putting the negotiations committee at odds, or the teachers in that fact. So I think before I turn it over to Flora, I just, and I've shared this with Flora, is that in the 3 years that I've been here, the information that in the ongoing meetings that I've been getting with Flora has been a breath of fresh air in regards to, she's been very helpful. She asked me, what I would like to see presented for the boards. And as you'll see tonight is the information that she's put together. I mean, I think it's very detailed information, I think in the 3 years that I've been here that we haven't been able to be breaking down for the boards, and it's very informative information. And we've been meeting on a regular basis to make sure that we're giving the boards the information they need during this difficult time of budgeting. So hopefully tonight, all the hard work from Flora in his office, you'll be able to see it in the material that we're sharing with you tonight. And I think before we get into the actual budget, we wanted to touch bases a little bit on the People's Bank a matter that we discussed earlier. So I'll hand it over for Flora so she can.
If you, Chris, if you don't mind, I actually have that as a 6B and 6B, and that is approved credit card application stuff. I think that'd be better to put there if you don't mind, and we could stay on the budget. Is that all right with you? And I'm happy to switch it around.
I think that works for us, right, Flora?
Yep, I have all the documents. It's just which one.
Okay, I don't want to conflate the 2 items, although Helen and I spent some quality time at the Chester Bank today, but we will get into that later.
All right, so I'll have Flora, and I'll chime in every once in a while to answer questions and stuff. And I don't know if you had a preference, if you wanted to see the Athens, Grafton, or the Westminster budget first.
I have Grafton already up, which is Helen.
Okay, I'll let you want to share the screen on your end, Flora?
So can you guys see it?
Yes.
I'm working with 2 computers here, so just to be on the safe side. So for Grafton here, which is all the budgets are all the same. So to be user friendly, they are actually color coded. We have the upper part, which is a light blue. That will be salaries. And then we have the other portion here, the light orange, that will be benefits. Benefits we cannot adjust. So benefits, we have changes on them. Benefits went up 6, almost 8%. It just depends on the volume of staff that you have. And then we have here the darker orange. Those are all the miscellaneous, which is like facility repairs that Jack was mentioning. Any supplies, professional development, anything that has to do with the billing building services like the utility services, water, sewer, snow and plowing. So those are all the miscellaneous expenses for each of the schools. Right now, this budget is just only for Helen, which is Grafton.
And as you guys are looking through these different color-coded areas, keep in mind, it's usually the orange is where the principals have control over increasing or decreasing the budget. And so that's why, it's important just to bring that to your attention. The others are usually pretty locked in, pretty tight. We don't have that much control over benefits. We know we don't. If there's a rise in benefits, we can't go less than that. In salaries, that all depends on how negotiations go as well. But usually it's the orange that we have control over as an administration.
Yeah, so for salaries, we did try to put a portion in, and then it could always be adjusted according to how the negotiations will end. But at least we have it in there for now to be calculated. And then at the bottom, you can see for your reference, as Chris mentioned, the dark orange, which is the miscellaneous, is whatever we could adjust. We have here 3 years. We have FY20, what was approved in budget, FY21, what was approved as well, and then FY21 year-to-date actual, which is how the school is doing right now and expenses of those lines. And then FY22 requested base is what will be for you guys to analyze and approve. And then bottom line here, you have the amounts for each of the years. As you can see, FY20, it was 2.1 that was approved. For FY21 was 1.4. Right now from that amount, they have spent already $877,000. And then what is being requested for this year is 1.4, which is close to what was as FY21 approved already. We have a comparison for each of the lines, which is salaries, benefits, miscellaneous, and assessments. Assessment is the budget for the SU. It gets assessed to each of the schools. And then we have the amounts for FY21 that was approved, FY22, which is what we're proposing, and then the percentage variance from each of the years. So from FY21 on salaries to FY22, this is the variance right now that is being allocated. For benefits, the 5% increase. Miscellaneous right now, Helen has a 2% increase, and then assessment is going up on 83%, but that is because we decided to make some adjustments to the SU. We used to assess, for example, the technology department. It used to be split between each of the schools. Right now, we're just putting the technology department under the SU, and then we're gonna just assess them to the school. Why? We think it's just fair to assess technology to the schools instead of just having them split, because the weight of the department gets more to one of the schools sometimes than the other one. And all of the schools right now at this point are using the technology department equally.
To add on to the technology piece is that, especially now with all this remote learning and all this change in learning that we're doing, it made more sense to put it under the SU. And so it's assessed that way, similar to what we were required to do for special ed and transportation. So between the technology and I think custodial as well in some cases, that's why you see the 83%. It's not that there's not additional spending at the SU level. It's just that we put more things under the SU umbrella that used to be in the local budgets.
So the way we assess the schools, it goes out of the overall budget for the Union Elementary, but each of the school has a portion assessed regardless. So here we see for Atom Grafton, FY21, how much it was, and for Westminster, how much it was. And then for FY22, these are the amounts that gets assessed per line. For example, for custodial, for FY22 is $35,000. That's a 55% variance. The reason for this is So we do have, for example, the director position, we are putting it under the SU instead of having him split, as well as the custodian that we do have for the SU, because sometimes we have him floating around between schools. Same thing, we have the board. The increase in the board is because we decided to split the board. Some of the expenses of the board were being put under the superintendent office. I just thought it looks more reasonable to have the expenses for legal and as well for auditing going onto the board instead of being allocated to the superintendent's office, because those are overall expenses for all of the schools. It's not actually a superintendent expense. Then we do have the technology department, transportation as well. I put special ed transportation and transportation together because it's the same service. It's still part of the transportation budget. The difference is how we allocate the assessments. So I decided that everything that had to do with transportation just go 100% to transportation department. So that's how you see the 17% increase. For special ed, there were different adjustments to the special ed budget as well between salaries and benefits, as well as staffing. But we do know that some of the portion for the special ed does come from grants funding. But right now, I can't allocate any portion for grants because we haven't got any final amounts approved for that. Then we have food service. Food service, it seems like it was just one body allocated to the schools instead of having the department itself. So that as well got adjusted, and food service gets to go assess 100% under the SU and then split equally between the schools. Then we do have early ed. And then superintendent's office. The fact that we see the decrease in the superintendent office is because I did reassign some of the expenses that he had, like I mentioned already, audit and legal services that was moved under the board. And then we do have the business office. The change in the business office is salaries, as we know, as well benefits. And for some reason, we do have a new staff that was approved in past budgets, but it seems that it wasn't allocated correctly. So that was adjusted as well. And we do show the increases. Some of the lines that we see the increase is just people or bodies not being allocated correctly or being split between schools that we just decided to put it under the umbrella of the SU and then assess it.
Right, and I think it's worth noting. I think it's worth noting is that when you look at these percentages, keep in mind what we said earlier is that grants take up especially in food services. We do a lot of that through grants, and it's 5.25% right now. That's not that. Right now, we can't include the over $1 million plus that we get in grants that help.
Right now, going by the revenue that we received for the past year, this is the amounts that we have here. And this is most likely what is expected as well for this year. As Chris was mentioning, for the full service department and grants, they get at least $700,000 in helps. Here on the top, I do have as the revenues the town spending taxes. These are each of the amounts that we get from each of the towns. So from Westminster, we get 4.1, but that gets a portion goes to the high school, and then the portion that goes to the Union Elementary, which is the one that will be pertaining to you guys, will be this here.
Forrell, let me ask you a question. I'm just looking at this and maybe I'm misunderstanding something fairly fundamental. Now, I see assessments here for Athens, Grafton, and Westminster broken out. And now Westminster has roughly triple the number of students, and yet it seems to be that the assessments here that are 3-to-1 are for Athens Grafton. Do we have those mislabeled? Is that possible? Because it seems to me, just guessing, that these would be that the West would be the 1,096,000 and Athens Grafton would be the 291,000, both for 21 and 22. Is it possible those are just mislabeled? Because they look like they are.
So one of the school gets that says the 79% and the other school gets that says the 21%.
Well, 79% being, this is based on bodies, right? Because Athens and Grafton are 20%, you know, not even, we've got 40 odd kids, 50 odd kids in the system versus a significant multiple number of that number in Westminster. Just those seem.
So Jack, you're asking right now, should the AT/GT column, I'm calling
West and vice versa. Yeah, they look like they're wrong. They look like they're flipped around.
like just the F and G title headings should be switched
Yeah.
because Westminster is so much larger than Athens Grafton.
Right, and those would, because when I did this before, that roughly 3-to-1 ratio is pretty much how it worked out, and it looks like the 3-to-1 is here, but it's just backwards.
I would agree 100% with that. It doesn't make any sense for a small
that's
school like Grafton to
that's
have
gonna be
that type
wrong.
of numbers.
So 48 student, it goes to Westminster.
That, in other words, your column F that says ATGT and your column G that's West, and J and K the same way, those have to be the other way around. Those titles have to be wrong.
So what
I would think.
Yeah, so I think what Jack is saying is just, it's not.
Westminster has more students than
Yeah, they're the big school of the system.
Yes, Grafton's and Athens is a small school.
So it's not changing the information, it's just that
The titles are wrong, and it'll matter later when we do these total budgets. I was noticing that in the previous slide and thinking that's inverted from what I would have assumed.
Yeah, the thing is that regardless to the schools, I did this for you guys, not for the business office end, because from our end, we just pulled the expense from the Union Elementary bucket, which is actually these amounts. So
I think that the unified elementary, I have no dispute with. It's just that when we present this stuff to the folks in Athens Grafton, they're going to go out of their minds because it's wrong. And we want to just flip those around. And then I think they and all the other assessments will pan out correctly. I think that was the case in this, that's the case in this slide and in the other one. Listen, compared to some of the stuff we saw last year and the year before, this is fantastic. But I just want to make sure that we get this fixed.
I apologize for the confusion, but like I said, for us, when it comes to assess, we just use this column here, which is the overall amounts.
No sweat, but since
But
we are
like
going
if we add both of the schools together, it gives us the same amounts as what we assess the Union Elementary.
But it will matter a lot to the individual select board ed commissions, because if they say, well, if the schools are separated, we have a 5-fold increase in our assessments, I think they might not like that much. So let's just get that fixed here if we could.
Yeah, I'll add this information to the site as well. So
with that rather large caveat, we got it. I'm gonna ask you a question about the food service thing, because that seems to be the big enchilada here. Maybe this is a Chris and Lynn question. What's happening there?
Well, it's like, food services, a lot of the food services that we have right now throughout the SU, it's like I said before, it's like you can't calculate the grants into this right now.
Okay, so this is basically, how much was the grant last year so we can get an idea as to what this will really look like?
This is the grants here and the revenues most likely that we get throughout the year.
Yeah.
So like I was mentioning, for the Union Elementary, usually this is the amounts that they get from the town's assessments, which is a 4.3 million. So right now, what is coming from Westminster is 3 millions, another 3 from Athens, and then from Grafton, 957,000. So that's the amounts that we get from the towns.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm asking.
Yes.
I'm asking, the
by
food service in
portion.
21 was basically numbers in the, let's see, the $30,000-$40,000 range and the $250,000 range seems a little wonky. And I know that we're going to get reimbursed for some of that, but I just think that the 525% increase is an artifact, not really a data point. Would that be correct?
Exactly, yes, because we do get this, we get grants for food service, but at the moment I cannot say I'm getting this amount because we haven't got anything final.
Okay, yeah, but I don't want people to, think we've got to go cut the food service budget by 80% to bring this into line.
That's why I'm showing you the revenues, but you haven't let me finish.
Okay.
So for food service, at least for FY20, we got $700,000, $706.95 for revenue. As well, we did get extra helps, like right now, whatever they doing for servicing the communities for the COVID relief, as well as summer programs, we're getting extra grants for that. But right now, we got an extra grant that is the child nutrition equipment. We got $123,000 extra for that as well. So if this program keeps going on, we'll actually keep getting extra grants as well for the different programs that we are giving to the community.
All right.
And if here in the bottom, as you can see, we have the total amount that we get between town taxes as well as grants, and the extra money that we get for food service. And that gives you a total of the 17 millions. But that's overall monies that we get for the whole school district, not only for you guys.
Yeah, when a five-fold number like that, it's going to get people's attention. And I just want to make certain that I think that, what year one is a net of cost less reimbursement, and this one is just a raw cost, and so it's apples and trucks, not even apples and oranges. I just want people to, because again, we're educating a couple of new folks here to this process, and we want to make certain it doesn't look as wonky as it might seem at first pass. Is that the same case? Is that the same, Andy, on the special ed side, or are we really looking at 129% increase?
I don't know if I'm fully prepared to be able to answer that, but typically we're reimbursed at like 54 to 56% until Act 173 goes in. So, just based on what Flora was saying with the food and not being able to apply that in there, I would assume that would, be the same, because at 54%, that would take that down to.
Here highlighted, as you can see right here, the IDA basics that we get, the amounts that we get for special ed, right there between those two amounts that we get in grants for special ed, we have 7.6 millions, which is actually less than what we have for the special ed actual budget.
All right.
The overall budget that we have for special ed is just 6.6. So it is show overall that they'll get more in grants than what their actual budget is. As well, the special ed budget did go down.
All right.
So-
It's just an overall assessment. You see that it'll go up, but Andy's actually miscellaneous did went down quite a percentage. So they had adjustments at least of $200,000 on his budget. But this is just, you guys want your budget first, and it's a little challenging to present you the budget with assessment. Meanwhile, we haven't discussed with the SU our budget.
No,
So
I
I
just,
am assessing you something that might be adjusted, but we just don't know yet.
all
As
right, no,
well-
I get it. I just, want to make sure that I ask the question before, as we start, because I'm the one that pushed to start this process now rather than wait. I'm going to go around the horn again and ask each of my board colleagues if they have any questions for Flora. Lynn, can you start us off? Lynn, yeah, there you go.
No, I don't have any questions yet. I think I'm understanding it.
All right. There will be opportunities to do this, and as we say, this is obviously rough draft. Cheryl?
Well, Jack, this is only the Athens-Grafton portion of the overall budget. We haven't seen the Westminster numbers yet, and Flora hasn't gone.
Just to you as well, so we could go with that one now, which is
Well, I don't want to disrupt Jack's flow here, but I just wanted to say I think it might be more fruitful to see all of the numbers from Flora before we get into the questions. It's just an observation, and whereas we spent a lot of time on this last piece, we haven't dived into detail about what your other answers to the questions are, even specific to Athens and Grafton. So what's the most efficient way to go? I doubt that it's to dive into Athens Grafton right now. I think it's probably better to get the larger picture.
What I'd like to do is since I've kind of asked 2 out of 3 of you to give Jess at least a chance, and then we will in fact go in, have the presentation on Westminster, and then do the deep dive. I see Chris has got his hand up. I'm going to ask him to speak, and then I'm going to ask Jess, and then we'll go on to the second half if you don't all mind.
No, I was just going to say, just to keep the flow of things, let Flora and I present the budgets, and then everyone goes around. Then you'll have all the information you need to ask the relevant questions. Because I think if we keep going and present this budget, then go for questions, and then present the next one and present for questions, I think it's going to take a lot longer, and you're going to see that there's similar questions, or you might have your questions answered once it's all been presented.
All right. Justin, before,
I agree, because my questions are not Grafton specific, so carry on.
Then carry on, Flora. Sorry for interrupting you here then.
We have the same color coded for the Westminster budget. We have on the top lines is going to be their salaries. We have the peach colors. It will be their benefits. As I mentioned before, we can't.
Flora, the screen hasn't changed. We're still looking at Athens Grafton in terms of screen sharing.
Yeah.
So can you see this here?
We only see Athens Grafton.
Helen, GES budget for board Excel.
Can you see now, Liz?
Not yet.
No.
You're not sharing your screen anymore, so go back into sharing your screen.
Flora, I can share the screen on my end if you want me to. There you go.
There it is.
This is the
I had too many open, and I guess it just showed us out together.
Or
Can you see it now?
Can indeed.
This isn't it. That is a different one. That's not Liz's.
It says Liz WCS budget for board. Is that not the one you're intending to show?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Cheryl, can you see that?
The one I saw said fiscal year 22. It was a different one. It wasn't Liz's because I have looked at both Liz's and Helen's earlier today. So,
Right.
but
The one that's on the screen right now is Liz's budget.
Can you all see it now? It does have it as a title.
Yes, that's correct, Flora.
Okay. It's just, I guess, since I have them all open in the bottom, it's just popping all of them. Like I was mentioning, we had the same color coding for the budget for Liz as well, or Westminster. Blue will be all of the salaries. The light orange or peach will be benefits. We can make adjustments to benefits. And the benefits indeed, they went up. And then the dark orange, we have all of her extra expenses or miscellaneous. And then we have her comparison. Salaries most likely is a 3% that we are just allocating for adjustments. 6% was going up for benefits for everybody. And then her miscellaneous, actually, she adjusted them, so they went down. So from 1.9, she adjusted to a 1.8. We have the same amounts for assessments. And then overall, her budget, it seems that the change is just a 2% from FY22 to from FY21 to FY22. And then we had went over the assessments. And then we do have the titles here, correct? Okay. So we could go back here and this is how her budget is being presented by her and adjusted. So if we want to analyze her miscellaneous, we do have her employees and trainees, education for the staff, but we most likely have adjustments and everything. Building, cleaning services, communications, printing. She adjusted all her travels because of COVID purposes. Right now, we are not allocating in the budget for the staff to go anywhere else for trainings purposes. And then we have the SU assessments in there. And then her general supplies.
Do we have questions from our colleagues? Is this the time or do I wait?
Yeah.
Then why don't we begin where we began? Cheryl?
Just a second. Jack, let me ask this. First of all, I really appreciate all of this. And the one discrepancy where Athens and Grafton were reversed didn't show up in the Westminster budget. It did show up in the Athens Grafton, and it's clear that'll be fixed. So that's excellent. Do you think, I mean, maybe it's enough, Jack, tonight to get this kind of big picture? I'd love some comments actually from the principals about what they see. I mean, to your list of questions, are there any changes of staffing? I didn't see any, for example. These look like they're relatively level budgets. However, we don't know what the impact from the state's going to be, you know, the lack of reimbursement, but as a starting point, and again, I would like to hear from the principals, it looks as if we're generally providing the same level of services to approximately the same number of children. That's what's planned based on these budgets for the next year. That's what it seems to be being proposed. may we get a response from them about that.
Yeah, Cheryl, that's exactly what you're seeing here, is that we're expecting to have a similar enrollment next year, similar staffing next year. And I really did just level the budget, and we'll be able to provide the same level of instruction with the same budget.
And that's essentially what I also did. It just seemed like a year where so many unknown questions about revenue that it was best to just level fund it as best we could, but still offer the same kind of services. You know, we're in the very beginning stages of might shift some of those services around, but no additional money will be needed.
Right, and so then, thank you both. And so, Jack, what we're looking at here then are these confusing changes around the SU assessments, around food services. At least those are a couple of things. I mean, the technology change, for example. I don't think part of it is that it doesn't affect the budget overall, but it moved things around. However, I'm still not sure I'm clear about all of that. Like that this may be a subject for a different meeting, but those areas of change are where I'm not clear.
Fair enough. Lynn, I'm going to ask you to pop in next.
So can you guys see maybe one budget next to the other one? Not graphic wise, but salaries and benefits.
Yep.
Yeah, so you see between one school and the other one, the change in the budget, which is one has a 4%, the other one has a 2%. Most likely, you know, we have to take into consideration the salaries and most likely benefits that did go up. Miscellaneous wise, you know, like it was just a 2% for Helen, and but Helen is you're gonna see more an impact in her miscellaneous because we had to take into consideration her school is smaller, but she still had the same expenses as any others of the schools with COVID related. So there's not a lot that she could do there. So that's how you see the difference between her and Liz. That Liz miscellaneous did go down, and maybe Helen has a 2%, but we do have to take into consideration that we might have extra COVID expenses as providing at least hand sanitizer and PPE for the students. Right now, maybe we won't use that extra percentage for COVID expenses, but we have to take it into consideration because we just don't know when is it going to go away.
Thank you. I think I'd start to ask Lynn if she had any question there.
No, I don't have any questions. I thank you for all of the discussion. It's helping me to start to figure out what the numbers are talking about. Thank you.
Jessa, do you have a question?
I do. One, I definitely think even these preliminary documents that taxpayers are going to see, the budget is our planned expenditures, and it makes it really hard when we have last year's actual, not including the grants. I think we really need that in there because it does make it look like a huge increase. And grants are not guaranteed every year. I think we should have those raw numbers. The other things I have, the tech budget, which if anything this year has shown us tech budget should be bigger, but the tech budget is split by schools based on the number of children. Is that correct?
That's how it says it, yes.
So the tech budget, different schools have different levels. Everybody has one-on-one devices, but there's more additional devices in some schools, printers, smart boards, etc. I don't know if that's an equal way to divide it, but custodial.
Oh. Okay, so I'm sorry. There's a confusion there. So when I mean tech, I mean technology staffing wise, not equipment wise. I cannot assess equipment that way. Yes, no, equipment wise is not assessed that way. Because for example, we could have the high school getting smart boards and the elementary doesn't have them. I can assess them when it comes to equipment. What I assess in technology department for the schools is the staff, which is Ricky and his 2 employees, their salaries, their benefits, and their expenses as the department, you know, their equipment, their supplies.
Right.
That's what it says.
No, I understand that, but basically the SU is our forced contractor that we have to use. So if we're paying 28% of the staffing fees, then I want their staff in our school 28% of the time, even though we might not have 28% of the pieces of equipment that they need to spend time on. So the school with more smart boards is going to require more staffing time than the school with no smart boards. The same thing with custodial, it's being split by ADM, but square footage, I think, should also play a role in that calculation, especially when we're talking about sanitizing supplies. It's a steady application per square foot for disinfectant spray. I just don't know if those numbers have been looked at and if our board wants to look at things that way or not. Those are my only comments, but I really like your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
Jester,
so, right now, we haven't reviewed with the SU the budget itself, which was a little challenging trying to review this with you guys. Meanwhile, we're not 100% sure how much we'll be assessing any of the schools because our budget hasn't been approved. Now, the idea of the splitting the technology department and custodial and putting them under the SU, that could actually be changed and adjusted. But like I said, you know, until we sit with the board for the SU and see which one is their feedback, we don't know how we're gonna just move forward with it. But that could change, you know, maybe the SU could be agreeing with those things.
Chris, you get your hand up, then I want to make a comment, and then I want to ask the broader community. I actually want to get Hardy and Dawn's input, at least briefly. Chris, go ahead. You had some point.
Yeah, they're just a few things in regards to the technology piece. I mean, there was a long ongoing conversation I had with the director of technology, and what we're seeing is that each technology person has their own special skill sets, and at any given time, what we found is that if we put them, you know, if we move forward and continue to put the technology into the SU, what we see is that now we're able to, instead of saying, you know, this one person is going to be able to go over if there's a problem with connectivity and we have a person who's there, that's their strength, but the person who is technically the only one working there doesn't have that strength. We're just trying to utilize the resources better with the staff we have. And that's been a long ongoing conversation we've had, the technology, but also the budget in general. It's like, you know, Flora and I discussed earlier, it's like, it's really tough to really look at all these numbers and say, you know, whether they're good or bad, what that's going to work out until we have a chance to present to the SU board, the SU budget, and see, you know, where they're going, because we all know based on the SU budget, it's a trickle down effect in regards to what the assessments look like at the each individual board level. So I would ask everyone just to take this all with a grain of salt, because we don't know how many changes or what's going to change at the SU level and what's going to be approved and what's not approved. So in many cases, it's, you know, there's a lot of speculation in here too, based on, you know, a budget that the SU board hasn't seen yet.
I'm gonna call out my agenda here for why I asked Flora and Chris to jump through the hoops that I asked them to do. You know, we are a single district right now, and yet I've asked them to carve these into two pieces somewhat artificially, and we had a couple of artifacts in the attempt to do that. But the reason I wanted us to do that is because we needed to understand how this works when there are two districts as opposed to one district, if that's what people do. And while there are a lot of other factors in terms of how this gets cut out on a per taxpayer, on a per student basis, and by the way, those are the things I want us to address the next time we meet. What I wanted to know, because I really didn't know, is if we broke out this for next year on a per school basis, what would be the impact? And what this is telling me, and it may be an artifact, but what it's telling me, at least in my first read of this, is if the Westminster school was its own district, they would be looking at a a tax increase of in the neighborhood of 2%. If the Grafton Athens was its own school district, it would be looking at an increase if I got that right, and we had all those errors, it sounded like it was in the neighborhood of about 4%. Am I wrong on that? Is that pretty much what it would look like? Now that's, that's not saying that, is that an accurate read on this, Chris?
Based on the preliminary numbers we have in front of us.
Okay, and understanding that there's at least enough, potential errors here that that could be wrong, but I want to take a first cut at it so people had some idea of what it would look like if there were two districts going forward. And I think you've given us at least some view of that future, if that is our future. And I wanted to, because I know the SPE, I know the individual select board commissions are going to all want to know this stuff. And I thought we'd at least start us down the pathway of seeing what it shook out and looked like. And that was because I had no idea. So there you are. I'm going to ask if, with permission of my board, if Hardy or if Dawn have any questions. Hardy in particular is a first-class bean counter, as I know, and I thought one of the reasons I thought his input would be particularly valuable. Could I start with Hardy and then ask Dawn?
Yes, I've looked. I can see the numbers. It's the first time I've had a chance to look at them, and I have not really looked in great detail at the history. But I think the history is going to be very important in the analysis that we're looking to do going forward, because one of the key elements in any tax calculation is equivalent heads. And right. We're going to need to get detail on equivalent heads, and I'm hoping that Flora will be able to provide me with that information, both historically and possibly going forward, where we can make an estimate.
Well,
there's a lot of water to come over the dam here before we have anything that's really concrete.
That's fully understood. One of the items we have, our 6A new business, is to will be coming up in a minute, and it's to authorize Chris and the team to spend a little time with you all on that. But I just wanted your impression. Don, what do you think?
Well, we're still pretty early in the process by the looks of it. I think we're doing about as good as we can do right now. The actual tax rates are they're going to be determined by about 5 different factors, one of which is budget. So hopefully we'll have some good information by January when we start approaching the Athens-Grafton crowd with this.
Like I said, I just wanted to get this ball rolling as early as we could, given that we're doing this a little later than we would usually in our budget cycle, and yet we're being a bit crowded by the need that Westminster has to start their process right off the bat if they're going to get it done at all. So that's the reason I asked everybody to jump through a lot of hoops, and I thank you all for doing that. It was you were quite indulgent, and it's helpful. If there are no further questions, and I should ask, are there any further questions? And then I'm going to consider 5 as having been dealt with, and we are on to new business. Thank you, Flora, for doing all this. I really do appreciate it, and everybody else. The 2 items we have for new business are, the first one is I need to have a motion to approve or to authorize the superintendent and the finance office to work with the select board educational advisory committees. We'll get to this in a second. I put 6A as that item, and I want to I need a motion to that effect because otherwise they're doing work that hasn't been authorized and burning cycles to help the Westminster withdrawal motion that they don't really have authorization to do, and we need to give them that. So I am looking for a motion, as I said, to authorize the and direct the supervisory union to provide assistance to the select board as advisory committees so that they can complete their work. That's,
So moved.
I got a motion. Any discussion of this motion? Perhaps you want to touch on it, Chris? And if not, I will.
No, go ahead, Jack. It was, this motion was just to make sure it was in the minutes, and I was taking direction from a board and not individuals, just covering myself, and Jack was more than happy to oblige.
Yeah, I think that, if Chris and the team are doing this stuff on their own recognizance, it looks very much like they're egging Westminster on, and that would be open to an argument that they're acting in bad faith about the merger. And but if the board authorizes them to do it, then it's not he's acting at the direction of the board to cooperate with them. And that's basically the bottom line here.
Just keeps one less target off my back.
I don't know. There's so many. How could you tell if one's gone? Anyone wish to add a comment or discussion before we go to a vote on this? Don't all speak at once. Then I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor of doing a roll call? Lynn Morgan,
Yes.
Cheryl Charles,
Yes.
Jessa.
Yes.
Did anybody come onto the meeting that from our other colleagues? Not yet. All right, then I consider the motion passed. 6B is to approve bank credit card application. Do you want to take this, Flora, if you're still here?
Yes, I am here.
You are. It's hard to see everybody on this way this thing lays out. Flora, go ahead.
So we went today, and so because of the auditors coming in and giving us different suggestions as which one was the best approach to handle the student accounts and to have a better control, we went to the bank today, did different things. We realized that the bank accounts haven't been updated. So we started the process of updating the information and putting everything under the Union Elementary, because it's not under the Union Elementary. It was into each individuals. So it's under one bank account was under the Addison and Grafton, and the other portion was under Westminster. So now they're gonna switch everything for us and do it as Union Elementary. So that was the first step. Second, so the principals sometimes have the challenge when they have activities for the students to get either cash from the banks or get a check. Right now, most of the companies, they just want to do everything either remote or online. So having checks and cash is not the best approach at this point. So I suggested to have a credit card process. The way that the credit card will work is we actually, whatever we spend, it gets deducted from the account, and that's how the credit card gets paid. It's not gonna come out from the budget at all. It comes 100% from the student accounts for activities. So if it's been spent $500 in that credit card, the bank itself is gonna pull that payment from the activities accounts and pay the card off. That way, the card would not incur in any percentage or anything else. So it will be paid every month by itself, 100%, and the money gets pulled from the activity account. It's just giving an extra tool to the principals to just make it easier for them, as well as them having to contact the business office asking, you know, like right now, like, how can I manage this? Us having to use the SU card to put things on hold or to pay for things. And as well, it gives us a better manage of the bank accounts. So right now, we being a third party, we actually will be the first party. So we'll be getting every bank statement. We'll be able to reconcile better the accounts and know what's going on with the student accounts. And it helps us in audit purposes, as well as, like, right now we having to look around for bank statements from different banks and realizing that they are under different names. As well, it helps, you know, if we get any changing in staff, everything is in a credit card. So the next step is able to use that credit card until we actually get to update names on the accounts. So right now, Helen has the challenge that her name wasn't in the account, and, you know, she was given the runaround. We've been trying to fix this for her for months. If we would have a different principal next month, at least we have a credit card in place and it could be used until we go to the bank and make those adjustments. So they gave us the letter, and I have the letter up here so you guys could read it. And then it will start the process for the credit card to be put in place. The idea is for each of the credit card, we'll have a $5,000 balance. It'll be one for Arts and Craft and the other one for Westminster. The amounts could be adjusted if you guys think that it's not the it's a high amount. We could just do something less than that, but it will have to be equal amounts for each of the schools.
I want to speak to this since I get to sit in an office and be very impolite to a bank manager for a couple of hours today. This has been an issue for a very long time. It's the student accounts monies and petty cash money are the bane of all auditors. They just are. And we have found in the past that the bank checks were impossible to reconcile, or one was missing, or a tab was missing, or some other bloody thing was screwed up. Every time when we've changed principals, it's been an issue. We've literally ended up with janitors on staff still being the only person able to sign checks for their principals. It's just been one goofy business after another. We're fairly clear that probably everything that Liz has signed for the last year has probably been not technically legal because it's still been coming out of an account that shouldn't exist. Same is true with Helen, because they're signing checks on behalf of legal entities that haven't existed since November of 2018. Little things like that make auditors absolutely bonkers. So we need to get this cleaned up. The best way to take care of the bookkeeping for small accounts like this is to have a bank do it for you for free, which is what having a credit card based system does. I'm the one that picked the 10,000 out of the air because I want to have this in place for the next 5 to 10 years, and I don't want to have to go back with new resolutions every year, and that's the reason for it. They would not, because I hate peoples, and they wouldn't do it the way a normal bank was. Instead of giving us positions, they required us to name the positions, which means we'll have to redo a resolution as part of organization every year from now until infinity. I'm sorry about that, but that's the story. So what I'm hoping you all do is approve the resolution that the SU business manager and the treasurer of the WNUESD are authorized to be signatories for a credit card for, even though the credit cards will be held by our two principals. And that's what I need, a resolution to that effect. I don't think it needs to be the 6 paragraphs here, but I just need to have a board clerk be able to sign this. So I guess I'm asking for a motion to have the clerk of the Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District sign the authorization for business cards for our district, and keep it that simple. By the way, I don't remember who our clerk is. Is it Jessa or is it Lynn?
I think it's Jessa.
Okay, then Jessa, that's, it must be. All right, so it would be authorizing you to sign this on our behalf.
Okay, and then is the SU figuring out the policies around use? Like, after it's used, you have to turn in the packing slip with whatever you bought and reconcile your own statements?
I believe that the bulk of this is going to be, because it'll be a credit card, there'll be a monthly report and maybe and an online access to a standing report at any time. That's how these work. So in real time, or whoever needs to can take a peeky at it and see where we're at.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm thinking my business card, I have to turn in like a packing slip to match up to every statement item and all that sort of thing. But I'm guessing the business office can sort that out what they want on their own.
Yeah, I think that's a procedural thing, and we would delegate that to them to figure it out. Chris, you got your finger up?
Yeah, we have procurement procedures in place that, everyone will still have to follow. And so it will put in place exactly what Jess is talking about.
Yeah.
It would same level of procurement when they're buying stuff.
Well, this card is just strictly for activities because it will pull funds for the activity bank accounts. This is not a card that could be used for anything else that is other than student activities, because this is not a card that is going to be linked to the budget or any lines of the budget. This card gets paid and the bank itself will transfer funds from the activity accounts to pay whichever expense they incur in this card. So Helen, it was there. So, but this is something that I need to actually list as well, that they cannot use the card for anything else that is not student activities.
Yeah, Liz, I hope you haven't written a check today on the activities account, because I get bad news for you. Okay. By the way, and this is just an FYI for you both, that if you do have expenses that you need to run out through the activities fund, we just need to know that the bank is ready to do cashier's checks until this thing is cleared. So if you, in the next, say, 10 days, if you have something, check in with Flora or with me and we'll walk you through the process. So there you go. Any further questions before I put this to a vote? Hearing none. Paul.
Jack, this is Cheryl. I had my hand up. I don't know if you could see me.
No, sorry.
So I do move that the board approve the business card resolution for the purpose of issuing credit cards to be used with student activity accounts by the respective principals of the two buildings. I believe that, so that's the motion. With a correction, I believe that the treasurer of Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District is Paul Harlow. He's the elected treasurer of the district. So unless you know something that I don't know about David Clark's otherwise fabulous role, I think it should be corrected to read Paul Harlow.
We will take that note, we'll scratch it out and send it along. I think they already have Paul's card in their system, but we'll check on that when we talk to Paul tomorrow. So thank you. When we were talking, I had brain cramp and couldn't remember who the treasurer was.
So motion now on the floor.
Motion now on the floor. All in favor of Cheryl's motion as with her correction? Cheryl?
Yes.
Wynn?
Yes.
Jessa?
Yes.
Then it is passed. And Flora will have to scratch out and put in Paul Harlow's name. And then I don't know how we get Jessa to sign this thing, if we can do this via DocuSign or something.
I was gonna email it to her. She could always scan it and send it back. But so you're saying that we need to correct the treasurer's name. So I'm gonna go over that with Lori, because if it has to be Paul, then she may need to update the document and send it back to us.
Yeah, well, what we'll need to do is we'll need to find and this is for Chris's benefit, we'll need to find the electoral results of our meeting. Oh, no, we didn't have a meeting, of our Australian ballot back in, was it June? That shows that he was elected as the treasurer.
I spoke to Paul yesterday. I guess he's not aware that he is still the treasurer, if he is. So, but I have his number because I was working with him as well with the other Westminster's accounts that needs to be correct and updated. And he had no knowledge.
Knowing he wasn't there to object. Okay. So with that caveat in mind, I guess that's it. A director's comments are up next. Start with you, Lynn.
I just want to thank Flora and Chris and the principals for all their hard work. This is impressive.
Cheryl?
Right. I don't have anything additional except as thanks to everyone and everyone that you're standing here representing tonight, all the teachers, all the staff, all the families. So thanks to everyone for your hard work.
How about you, Jessa? Jessa, you there? Well, I'll just close again with a broad thanks to everyone. And again, my great appreciations to Flora, Chris, and Helen and Liz for getting a first pass at the fiscal stuff. I know it's been a real concern of at least 2 of the 3 communities, and this was very helpful. And we'll get this process. I so want to have us have a approval vote for our budgets in March this year, as opposed to June, as opposed to July, as opposed to something else. And so this is a step in that direction. Thanks a lot. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, if anyone's got one.
So moved.
Oh, there you go. All in favor, turn off your computer.